Hello and welcome. The President orders release of salaries of resident doctors for the months of September and October that they were withheld under the no work, no pay policy. Tertiary Education Trust Fund moves to break the jinx in local vaccine production to fund indigenous manufacturing of vaccines against COVID-19. Be forthright and work only for the party's interests, members of the PDP Board of Trustees challenged the new National Working Committee of the party. And the United Kingdom reports record number of daily coronavirus cases for a second day as France announces travel restrictions for the country. Plus, we'll have international news from our London studio.
On business news tonight, World Bank approves $700 million credit to aid climate resilience projects in Nigeria's semi-arid landscapes.
On sports news tonight, Akwa Ibom State Governor Udom Emmanuel rewards 2020-21 NPFL champions Akwa United for clinching last season's trophy for the first time.
And from the nation's capital, leader of the Islamic movement in Nigeria, Sheikh Ibrahim El-Zakzaki, breaks his long silence, denies claims that 3.5 million naira was spent by the government monthly on his feeding while in DSS custody.
Health workers whose salaries were seized following their recent industrial action may now have a cause to smile. And this is because the President has directed the Ministry of Finance to release the withheld salaries of resident doctors for the month of September and October 2021. And that's according to the Minister of Labour and Employment, Dr. Chris Ngige, who told State House correspondents today, after a meeting with the President at the State House, that the wages were seized based on the no work, no pay rule. On the grievances of lecturers in government-owned universities, the Minister gave details of the revitalization fund released so far to workers in the university system.
As a first step, Mr. President has approved last week, and I now have the authority and letter directing the Minister of Finance to release the funds of the resident doctors for September and October 2021, which was seized in conformity with the law. In the same vein, the approval covers also members of the JOHESU, Joint Health Staff Union, who went on strike in 2018 for 3 months. After the first month, they did it for March, April, May. After March, when they couldn't come back, we asked that their pay be suspended. This is in tandem with the ILO principles at work. You have a right to strike, but the employer has a right to stop your remuneration. On the side of ASU, we also gave them a revitalization fund for 40 billion early this year for revitalization of the university system. And in the MOA, we agreed that they should get another revitalization this year. And by last July, August, the money for revitalization was paid to them for the university system that were entitled to that. 30 billion was paid. Last week, 22.127 billion was also released to the university system for the unions or workers in the university system to benefit in consonance with the MOA we signed in December 2020. The altercation going on now, and for which ASU is asking their unions to union branches to vote on, is that a lot of them, number one, don't know that we have paid this quantum of money. Maybe it has not gotten into the account of the people, the persons involved, but I expected ASU to educate their people and let them know that this is what has happened.
And after that meeting with the minister and other engagements at the State House, the president departed Abuja for Istanbul, Turkey, to attend the 3rd Turkey-Africa Partnership Summit hosted by President Recep Tayyip Erdogan. According to the organizers, the agenda of the meeting includes reviewing the cooperation between African countries and Turkey since the last summit in 2014. The 3rd Turkey-Africa Partnership Summit is coming on the heels of President Erdogan's recent state visit to Nigeria, during which several agreements in the fields of energy, defense, industry, mining and hydrocarbons were signed to expand existing bilateral ties. The Turkish leader had, during the visit to Nigeria, affirmed his commitment to expand the volume of trade between the two countries to $5 billion. The president is expected back in Abuja on Sunday, December the 19th. Funding is said to be a major factor hindering local production of vaccines in the country, but the Tertiary Education Trust Fund is rising to this challenge as it's set to fund indigenous vaccine production against COVID-19. And this was announced by the Executive Secretary of the fund, Professor Suleiman Bogoro, at a conference to mark the 10th anniversary of the establishment of the fund in Abuja. Professor Bogoro says that TET Fund has funded over 168,000 projects in the nation's tertiary institutions in the last 10 years.
Of the Board of Trustees.
It's a stock-taking session for the Tertiary Education Trust Fund after 10 years of its Establishment Act, which replaced the repealed Education Trust Fund Act.
Thank you.
Educationists, government officials and members of the private sector lead discussions on how to bridge the funding gap in the nation's tertiary institutions, as well as fund research needed for the nation's development.
It is important to note that TET Fund has been playing a significant role in COVID-19 research in the country. Upon the directive of Mr. President through the Honorable Minister of Education. In response to COVID-19 vaccine and drug research, well, I said, not just COVID-19, but security and defense.
Funding tertiary institutions remains key to bridging the human resource gap in the country. While some speakers at the event decried the non-access to funds by tertiary institutions, others advocate the mobilization of more resources from both the private and public sectors to meet the needs of the tertiary institutions.
The volume of unaccessed funds, I know as at now, is still huge. You know, the Board of Trustees has made significant effort to allow beneficiaries to match allocations for more than 2 years at a time in order to fast-track access. But that has helped, but it has not significantly helped the problem.
There is a need for our society to be consciously abreast of the funding gap that is existing in our educational sector, because it will help us mobilize public support in order to mobilize such resources. And it will help political leaders to make the argument and to be supported.
Most speakers could not agree less on the urgent need to fund the nation's tertiary education sector. Hopefully, deliberations reached here will translate to better funding in the days ahead.
A major challenge facing the ongoing COVID-19 vaccination in the country is the trust deficit among its citizens, and that's according to the Sultan of Sokoto, Alhaji Saad Abubakar III. As a result, the Sultan is urging the federal government to do more to build confidence in the process. He stated this at the 4th quarter review meeting of Northern Traditional Leaders Committee on Primary Healthcare Delivery.
The Northern Traditional Leaders Committee on Primary Healthcare Delivery, established about 15 years ago, has played a crucial role in the fight against poliomeningitis in Nigeria. And with the spread of COVID-19, the federal government has engaged the committee to help in its efforts to tackle the pandemic.
Our Christian brothers.
The Sultan of Sokoto, His Eminence Alhaji Saad Abubakar, says Traditional leaders in the north are ready to support the federal government, but says the government needs to address the trust deficit among the citizens.
For people to trust us, we have to tell them the truth. And while we're trying to convince people, those people who are trying to convince must have trust in the government. So we have to convince people, yes, this government is yours. You put it there. How do we convince them to trust the government?
He also clears the air on the advisory role of traditional leaders, saying they do not seek to criticize political leaders, but to offer pieces of advice that will better the lives of the people.
We are only advisors to these our political leaders. And if they don't like the advice, we have done our own, alhamdulillah. We don't advise to criticize anybody. We don't criticize our leaders. So what we want to assure you, whatever we say to our leaders is for the best interest of the common man. And that's what we will continue to say. We will not stop doing things for the best interest of the common man.
Meanwhile, the mass vaccination exercise by the federal government is yielding results, as explained by the executive director of the National Primary Healthcare Development Agency.
We have so far vaccinated over 8 million eligible Nigerians against COVID-19. Although this figure is still far from our target of 112 million individuals to attain herd immunity, we have seen a significant improvement in our coverage since we launched the mass vaccination campaign.
With cases of the Omicron variant of COVID-19 recorded in Nigeria, the need for more inclusion of all opinion leaders has become more necessary than ever before. Emperor Simon, Channels Television News.
To politics, members of the People's Democratic Party's Board of Trustees are asking the new National Working Committee of the party to be forthright and work solely for the interest of the party if it must lead the PDP to victory in 2023. The chairman of the PDP BOT, Senator Walid Jubril, made the appeal at the maiden meeting of the Board of Trustees with the newly inaugurated National Working Committee at the party's headquarters in Abuja. The BOT also asked the party's leadership to pursue reconciliation ahead of the next general elections.
Members of the People's Democratic Party's Board of Trustees and the new National Working Committee converge on this hall 1 week after the new principal officers were sworn in. The euphoria of successfully birthing a new leadership for the party is still fresh in the minds of members, and it's reflected in the exchange of pleasantries. But this is not the main reason for the meeting. The party's Board of Trustees has a fatherly advice for the new leadership of the party.
You must try to reconcile individuals, states, and national issues. Do not be distracted by the ambition of individual members, but keep party as formidable as possible. Do not side any individuals with self-ambition and try to reduce the state of godfatherism in our party.
The PDP describes the new National Working Committee as the rescue team, believing it will lead the party to victory in 2023. In his remarks, the PDP national chairman notes that the expected victory will not happen in isolation, as the party urgently needs to be returned to the path of its founding fathers.
State leaders must work as a team. If you work as a team, you will win elections in your state. Most of the elections we have lost in PDP is because PDP defeated PDP. Under my leadership of the party, we shall try to be free, fair, and just. The interest of the party should be paramount.
The PDP is Nigeria's main opposition party, whose members believe they have a chance to win the presidential elections in 2023.
Whether or not this hope materializes will depend to a large extent on the decisions and actions of the party's leadership.
In part two of the break, season of defection in Adamawa State as some All Progressives Congress members join the People's Democratic Party. That's in a moment. To join us again. Welcome back. If you've just joined us, you're watching the news at 10 on Channels Television, coming to you live from Lagos. A reminder of our top stories. The President orders release of salaries of resident doctors for the months of September and October that were withheld under the No Work, No Pay policy. Tertiary Education Trust Fund moves to break the jinx in local vaccine production, set to fund indigenous manufacturing of vaccines against COVID-19. Be forthright and work only for the party's interests. Members of the PDP Board of Trustees challenged the new National Working Committee of the party. And the United Kingdom reports record number of daily coronavirus cases for a second day as France announces travel restrictions for the country. Ahead of the 2023 general elections, some members of the All Progressives Congress and other political parties in Adamawa State have declared their support for Governor Umaru Fintiri and the People's Democratic Party in the state. The event, which took place in Jada local government area of the Southern Senatorial Zone of the state, attracted supporters from across the local government. According to the defectors, the giant strides in the area of infrastructure development and the efforts of the governor to tackle insecurity, among others, are responsible for their mass defection.
The turnout is impressive as hundreds of people from Jada administrative headquarters of Jada local government area throng the venue. The event is to receive about 2,000 members of the All Progressives Congress, over 3,000 Social Democratic Party members, among others. Governor Umaru Fintiri of Adamawa State arrives the venue of the event in company of state government officials and party leaders. The chairman of the Adamawa State chapter of the PDP, while handing over the PDP flags to the new members, assures them of a level playing field, just as the former delegates of the APC in the state and some stakeholders from the area described the defection as evidence of the impact of the PDP-led administration in Adamawa State.
This gathering today we're witnessing here in Jada is historic. Because in the history of Jada, I don't think we have ever witnessed such a huge number of decamping back into the PDP. When I say huge numbers, I'm talking of in excess of 7,000 members from different opposition parties coming back into our party fold.
Addressing the crowd, Governor Umaru Fintiri assures the people of his government's commitment towards providing infrastructural development that will improve their livelihood.
That I will never take for granted the support that I've been getting from the people of Jada. In 2019, Jada has contributed for me being the governor of this state.
After welcoming the defectors, Governor Fintiri reiterates his administration's commitment to continue to attract people into PDP by providing good leadership in the areas of security, education, and infrastructure, among others.
More on politics. The Chief Whip of the Senate, Senator Ojils Okalo, is asking the National Chairman, Caretaker Extraordinary Convention Planning Committee of the All Progressives Congress, Governor Maimala Buni, and members of the Planning Committee to consider postponing the earlier scheduled National Convention in February 2022. In a letter addressed to the National Chairman, Senator Carlo warns that holding the convention in February without sorting out the disagreements that arose during the Congress would lead to an implosion. He notes that some states are embroiled in crisis with multiple factions, and it's important to put into consideration the consequences of these factions during and after the elections. Senator Carlo is also proposing holding the presidential primary and the election of the National Working Committee members simultaneously and at the same venue to avoid rancor and litigations. Let's cross over to Abuja now. Here's Terry Ikumi. Terry?
Hello, Ijoba. After a long period of silence following his release from detention, the leader of the Islamic movement in Nigeria, Sheikh Ibrahim El-Zakzaky, has spoken out. This time, he is denying alleged claims that the federal government spent 3.5 million naira monthly on feeding for him and his wife while they were in the custody of the Department of State Services. Addressing a news conference in Abuja, Sheikh El-Zakzaky says he was personally responsible for his upkeep while in detention.
The real truth is, all through our detention, we have been feeding ourselves. Since the time we reached Kaduna, up to the time we were released, nobody bought us a single bottle of water. We are feeding ourselves. Throughout, even when I was saying in Abuja, we were feeding ourselves. But we could not see, because we were feeding ourselves also illegally. Because legally they are supposed to feed us, all right? But they don't want anybody to hear that we are feeding ourselves. We actually feed ourselves all the years, 5 years, 7 months, we were in detention. Throughout, we were feeding ourselves. So those money were going to their own pockets. Not a single kobo has gone to us. So even though his name is lie, but maybe it is true they were taking the money, but they were not feeding us. It is lie that they were feeding us with those money. He said 3.5 million, that's what they called him, but FIR, from one source I had learned that it was 4 million every month.
In Taraba State, Governor Darius Ishaku has raised an alarm over what he says are plots by ISWAP and Boko Haram terrorists to establish camps in the state. While threatening to dethrone any traditional ruler who aids or harbors criminals in the state, the governor also enjoined them not to allow non-indigents with negative mindsets to settle in the state. He was speaking during the signing of the 2022 budget into law at the Executive Chamber of the Government House.
The Boko Haram and other ISWAP are trying to set up a scale in this state. And that is why we had to have an emergency meeting for over 1.5 hours before my coming here. It is very sad that the traditional rulers are neck deep in encouraging this insecurity. Let me warn, I will not, and I repeat, I will not tolerate it, and I will not waste time to remove any traditional ruler that misbehaves.
Now to matters of infrastructure development. The series of project commissioning by the Rivers State government continued today as Governor Nyesom Wike led top government officials to inaugurate a 10-kilometer internal road network in Odioku. Governor Wike says the project is in line with his commitment to make life comfortable for the people of the state. The project was commissioned by the Sokoto State Governor, Aminu Tambuwal.
Wild jubilation as Governor Nyesom Wike leads prominent personalities and friends to his wife's community, Odioku, in Ahoda West local government area of Rivers State. Accompanied by his wife, past and present government officials, especially former Governor Peter Odili, Governor Wike is here with the Sokoto State Governor to inaugurate his 10-kilometer internal road network. It is projected by the Bureau of Special Project to last for at least 40 years.
Drains are 600 millimeter to 600 millimeter in dimensions, 150 millimeter wall thickness, and reinforced with 12 mm high yield reinforcement pads. This road has been designed to last for not less than 40 years, ceteris paribus.
For the special guest, Governor Nyesom Wike is prudently managing River State resources.
River State is still playing such roles under the able leadership of my friend and my brother in terms of providing good governance, first class. It's not about money. It's not only about resources. It's about how to manage them efficiently, effectively, and to the benefit of the people. And that's exactly what Governor Nyesom Wike is doing in River State.
According to a visibly elated Governor Wike, the road network will not only change the landscape of the community, but also improve the people's livelihood.
My dear brothers and sisters, today is a different day in our commissioning of projects. Today is a day that people must understand and be able to say the truth. It's not to give your people money. There's no amount of money I can give to your people that can go around. What is important is that you have been able to attract development to your area.
That I commissioned this 10-kilometer internal road to the benefit of our people.
The residents and community dwellers, who are predominantly farmers, hope that this development will continue after the tenure of Governor Nyesom Wike.
Still ahead on the news at 10, World Bank approves $700 million credit to aid climate resilience project in Nigeria's semi-arid landscapes. That's on Business News. Join us again.
Welcome back to the news at 10. The federal government has completed the construction of 100.8 kilometers and rehabilitation of existing roads in Jigawa and Bauchi states. The Minister of Water Resources, Suleiman Adamu, who represented the president at the commissioning in Jigawa state, says the project is part of the government's plan to deliver dividends of democracy to Nigerians.
It's a day to celebrate for the people of Jigawa State, as their lives have just been made a whole lot more comfortable with the construction of 100.08 kilometers of 2 lanes and the rehabilitation of existing roads between Shiwarin and Azare in Jigawa and Bauchi states. Residents, traditional rulers and politicians are here to bear witness to the commissioning. The Minister of Works and Housing, Babatunde Fashola, represented by the Permanent Secretary Hussaini Adamu, says the federal government in the last 18 days has commissioned roads connecting 10 states.
I'm happy to reiterate that this is the 5th of many more project completion and handovers our country will experience in the next few weeks and months as we enter what I call a season of completion of projects.
President Muhammadu Buhari's message of cautious driving is passed by the Minister of Water Resources.
This road has been built to the highest quality of design and workmanship, and if it is well used and not abused, it should last for the designed life service. Road abuse takes many forms, such as overloading of vehicles and trucks, spilling of petroleum products, which dissolves all the components and allows water to penetrate, and converting the road shoulders to permanent parking places brings about the onset of road failure from the shoulder.
The governor of Jigawa State heaps praises on the federal government for this achievement.
They inherited more than 300 road projects where contractors have demobilized. In coming into power, they mobilized all the contractors back, and the projects continued without stop.
This road network is part of the 300 road projects inherited by the Buhari administration, and it is expected that the project will bring ease to travelers plying the road.
The Minister of Police Affairs has been giving details of the 20% increment in the salaries of men and women of the Nigerian police as part of its plans to reform the police in line with international standards. Mr. Megari Dingyadi also explained the modalities for payment, which takes effect from January 2022. He was speaking on our program, Politics Today.
I want to assure you that we can afford it, and that is why it is here, and we are going to ensure that we implement it to the fullest that we can. So there is no fear about implementation. We want to see that by January or February we implement this new package, because another issue is that we have to, some of the issues we are going to pay, we have to allow the Auditor General also to verify them to ensure that the figures are correct before they are paid. Like we are competing so many things, like this issue of outstanding death benefits. We are talking about 13 billion, and we have to verify the figures before we pay. We are also talking about burial expenses for family of the police, which is about 1.2 billion. So we have to verify all these figures. There are also other outstanding uninsured benefits for the police, which is also about 1.2 billion, and we are going to verify them. So that's why I'm thinking of maybe January, February, March, before we start paying some of the things. But the package, it is our intention to ensure that we pay it as early as January, February, by the grace of God.
Investing in the non-oil sectors and creating an enabling environment for investors will bring about broad opportunities for people in the Niger Delta. And this formed part of the views of some of the speakers at the Amnesty Economic Summit, which held in Warri, Delta State. The summit, championed by the interim administrator of the Presidential Amnesty Program, Milan Dikio, is targeted at tackling the economic challenges facing the region.
It's the economic summit of the Presidential Amnesty Program under the leadership of retired Colonel Milan Dikio, and the meeting aims to address and prefer possible solutions to challenges in the Niger Delta region.
But the picture below that is a picture of wealth.
The opening speech of the interim administrator of the program sets the tone for discussions as he harps on the need for better management of resources to ensure wealth creation in the region.
Every army marches on the stomach, not just the physical army, but to say that you need to secure the economy first. And so if there is anything you are doing that does not contribute to securing the economy, you are on the wrong trajectory.
Better funding and economic diversification are part of solutions preferred.
The problem with the entire rehabilitation process is that it requires a lot of funding. Initially, job creation. How are you going to rehabilitate people? How are you going to do that? It requires a lot of money. It requires that the economy is moving. It requires that after training them, you need to be able to employ them.
So if we do exports, we are sure of increasing our revenue. We are sure of making good profits. If we do export, we are sure of creating jobs for our brothers and sisters in the Niger Delta. If we do export, our GDP will improve the region.
The Executive Secretary of the Delta State Micro, Small and Medium Scale Enterprise Development Agency, who represented Governor Ifeanyi Okowa, suggests better business structures for growth.
Some of them have structures already, but those who don't have should have structures. So you have to be a registered company, you have to have a bank account, you have to pay your tax, you have to do payroll, bookkeeping, and passionately pursue your business.
Stakeholders present at the summit believe that the meeting is a stepping stone towards achieving a dream Niger Delta where economic prosperity, social stability and peace prevail.
Let's take a look at some more business news. Here's Anne Waudu.
Thank you, Ijoma. We begin business news tonight with the World Bank approving a $700 million credit from the International Development Association, and this is for Nigeria's agroclimatic resilience in semi-arid landscapes project. In a statement released today, the bank's senior external affairs officer for Nigeria, Mansira Nasir, says the project will increase the implementation of sustainable landscape management practices and strengthen the country's long-term enabling environment for integrated climate resilience landscape management. It also adds that cultivation of major crops in Nigeria has been on a steady decline within the last 2 decades, partly due to climate change, which encouraged food importation, while persistent water shortages, especially in the extreme north, has worsened land degradation and habitat loss. Meanwhile, the Board of African Development Bank has approved a $107 million loan to finance a digital and creative enterprises program right here in Nigeria. The program, which is co-financed by the Agence Française de Development and Islamic Development Bank, targets more than 868 million Nigerians aged 15 to 35 who are recognized as leaders of innovative early-stage technology-enabled startups or as leaders of creative sector micro, small and medium-sized enterprises. This investment program will also support beneficiaries through enterprise support organizations who train and sometimes fund entrepreneurs like innovation hubs, accelerators, venture capital and private equity firms. As Nigeria prepares to usher in a new year, First Bank says that it is mindful of the economic circumstances and uncertainties that come with the 2022 being a pre-election year. This formed the basis for the bank's SME Connect webinar, where experts shared insights on the economy that will help small and medium enterprises develop strategies for business growth and also help them build resilience in the coming year.
In a few weeks, Nigeria will join the rest of the world to usher in a new year. Just as individuals make new resolutions, businesses desire to perform better in a new year. But how well are they prepared to realize that aspiration in 2022? That question forms the thrust of the latest First Bank SME webinar series.
Our First Bank, our promise to SMEs is based on 7 pillars. We have promised to connect SMEs to market, finance, capacity building, infrastructure, resources, talent for business development, and inform them about policies and regulations that impact their business.
Research and development economist Gospel Obele takes the virtual audience on economic trends, market outlook, and business opportunities in 2022 and proffers ideas on how SMEs can scale for growth.
When you think of business growth in the coming year, especially in the pre-election year faced with increased cost centers, you want to think of how can I get my products and services to more scalable clusters where they have much more money to spend, all right, on a month-on-month basis.
Jovita Madujemu talks on how entrepreneurs can remain profitable through proper bookkeeping.
There's somebody who once said business is not about what you make, it's about what you keep. And so the expansion you're looking for really is in the planning, in working with a budget and ensuring that only planned expenses are catered for. Of course, sometimes there could be emergencies, but if every week you're having emergencies, then it means your planning is faulty.
For business owners to map their way to business growth and resilience in 2022, Chike Uzoma identifies elements of culture, leadership, change, and discipline.
Discipline is saying what we say as a business we will do. We will follow our vision and we will always react and be flexible to ensure that the business remains relevant in everything we do, in everything we get into. We are disciplined in driving to success.
The organizer expects that participants will apply the thoughts shared by these experts in their businesses. First Bank is a leading financial inclusion services provider in Nigeria and West Africa. The bank has been at the forefront of impacting businesses over the years and has consistently won awards for providing innovative solutions for customers and other stakeholders, including small and medium enterprises.
Meanwhile, it's another back-and-forth movement for local equities markets. The 1.2% drop in the share price of Dangote Cement triggered significant loss today. Laddie Williams has the details.
Hello and welcome to the Stock Market Report. Well, it seems to be a ping-pong movement in the market. As we see, the market is in the red today after some decent gains yesterday. That move sliced off about 46 billion naira from the market capitalization. Looking at the activity chart, it's green all through with the 249 million units traded in 3,579 deals valued at 3.57 billion naira. All right, let's look at the sectoral performance. It's mostly green, with the oil and gas sector, the major mover, up 0.54%. With that move from Total Energies, adding about 5 naira 10 kobo to its share price. Well, it's a negative market breadth with 15 gainers led by Royal X, while Livestock Feeds led 21 losers. The trio of FBN Holdings, Access Bank, Ecobank Transactional Inc. were the most traded by volume today. Well, one more trading day in the week tomorrow. Just maybe the bull will give us a show. And that's the Stock Market Report. I'm Ladi Williams. It's back to you.
And that's business news. Thank you for watching. I'm Anne Nwawadu. It's back to you, Joma.
Thanks a lot, Anne. A record number of daily coronavirus cases have been reported across the UK for the second day running, with 88,376 infections confirmed over the last 24 hours. A total of 11,708 Omicron cases have been identified in the country so far. As a result, earlier France announced it will tighten restrictions for travellers arriving from the United Kingdom. Here's Simon Pusey with more international news in Around the World in 5.
Good evening and welcome to the Channel studios here in London with your international news around the world in 5. 5 children have been killed and several more badly injured in Australia after strong winds lifted an inflatable bouncy castle into the air during end-of-year school celebrations. 2 boys and 2 girls in their final year of primary school died from the accident in Devonport in the southwest of Tasmania state. Police said the children had fallen from a height of about 32 feet. Authorities said 5 more children were in hospital, including 4 in a critical condition.
Police and emergency services were called to the scene just after 10 a.m. this morning, and it appears a wind gust has caused a jumping castle to lift into the air. Several children fell from the jumping castle, and it appears they may have fallen from a height of approximately 10 metres.
Russian President Vladimir Putin has pledged to attend the 2022 Winter Olympics in Beijing, making him one of the first major world leaders to indicate his attendance. His remarks came in a video call with Chinese President Xi Jinping, who said he looked forward to a get-together. It comes as a growing number of countries have joined a diplomatic boycott of the Games. A Colorado judge has sentenced a driver to 110 years in prison following his conviction for vehicular homicide when his truck crashed into stopped traffic and killed 4 motorists. The huge fire that followed the crash could be seen for miles, with 28 vehicles involved in the pileup. Prosecutors argued the driver knew his brakes were failing as he drove along Interstate 70 west of Denver. Rogel Lazaro Aguila Manderos said he tried to avoid hitting other vehicles after losing control. Super Typhoon Rai is battering the southern Philippines, forcing thousands of people to take shelter amid warnings of widespread flooding and destruction. Tens of thousands of people have been evacuated from coastal areas of the central and south of the country. Residents from Cagayan de Oro City were rescued by the Coast Guard on boats after incessant rains flooded communities. Typhoon Rai, which has been upgraded to a Category 4 storm, has wind speeds of 175 kilometers per hour. Uganda is delivering HIV medicine by drone in a pilot program aiming to improve the transport of medical supplies. The trial in Lake Victoria is run by the government's Infectious Diseases Institute. It delivers HIV drugs from a hospital to patients in rural hamlets in Kalangala. If the trial is successful, it may be adopted on a larger scale to help to improve delivery of drugs and medical supplies.
Once we have gathered the data and analysed,
we also then hope to use that to say whether we could set up a regular service around the islands to the whole of Kalangala district, or other places in Uganda or indeed East Africa which are difficult to reach, such as long-distance areas with difficult terrain, maybe in West Nile district.
Hammersmith Apollo.
Bruce Springsteen has sold the master recordings and publishing rights for his life's work to Sony for a reported $500 million. The deal gives Sony ownership of his 20 studio albums, including classics like Born in the USA. A 20-time Grammy winner, Springsteen's music generated around $15 million in revenue last year. His deal follows similar sales by Bob Dylan, Blondie and David Bowie. And finally, two rival politicians in Brazil have taken their differences to the ring. Mayor Simão Peixoto from the Brazilian city of Borba went head-to-head with former councillor Ereno Mauricio da Silva. They battled it out in 3 rounds of mixed martial arts. The fight comes after da Silva reportedly called Peixoto a crook following a water park dispute. But it all ended in good spirits, with the pair embracing at the end of the bout.
And that's your international news around the world in 5. Now back to the Channel Studios in Lagos.
Thanks a lot, Simon. To some sports now. Here's Ayotunde Balogun.
Many thanks, Ijoma. Akwa Ibom State Governor Idom Emmanuel has rewarded the 2020-21 MPFL champions, that's Akwa United FC, with a sum of 100 million naira and a plot of land each for the players winning their first MPFL trophy last season. Governor Idom Emmanuel announced the rewards to the team during the grand reception ceremony organized in honor of the team at the Banquet Hall, Government House in Uyo earlier today.
Chairman, can you step up, Chairman of the club? First of all, Chairman, these are the keys to a brand new 32-seater bus for your team. And have the permission of the ESCO members that your entire team that won the first league, whether you are from Akwa Ibom or not, that won the first league in this state, all of you will be given a plot of land in Akwa Ibom State.
Real Madrid's Gareth Bale, Marco Asensio, Andre Lunin and Rodrigo have all tested positive for COVID-19, as well as assistant coach David Ancelotti. Now, the club postponed their first team training session this morning and also earlier this evening to allow them test players and staff. It's the third announcement from the club in 2 days after Luka Modric and Marcelo also tested positive. Meanwhile, UEFA President Alexander Ceferin has urged players across Europe to get vaccinated as soon as possible against COVID-19, but says it was still a personal choice for now. UEFA is set to launch a video aimed at players featuring doctors explaining the benefits of vaccinations. Ceferin said the video featured only doctors explaining the benefits of the vaccine, as well as addressing questions about its side effects. I'm Ayotunde Balogun, and that's a wrap in sports news. It's back to you, Joma, for the news.
Thanks a lot, Ayotunde. And the main news again. The President today ordered the release of salaries of resident doctors as well as those of other health workers for the months of September and October that were withheld under the No Work, No policy. The Minister of Labour and Employment announced this after he met with the President. Also today, the Tertiary Education Trust Fund moved to break the jinx in local vaccine production, said it's set to fund indigenous manufacturing of vaccines against COVID-19. And the United Kingdom today reported record number of daily coronavirus cases for a second day as France announced travel restrictions for the country. That's the news at 10 tonight. Thank you so much for staying with us. I'm Ijoma Onyato. Do have a good night.